What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Heliocentric Podcast. I'm your host, Pierre, Pee Wee the Plug Andreessen. As always, everybody at home watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button for me. And if you're new and you enjoy this type of content, make sure you subscribe. I'm really looking for y'all to smash that like button. Let's get 1,000 likes on this video, get into that algorithm more and more. And then everybody at home or on the road listening to this podcast, make sure you head over to whatever podcast platform you use and leave this podcast a 5-star like and review. It is always much appreciated. It means a lot more than you guys know. So I thank y'all, to everybody who does the extra to show the support and love. Thank y'all so much. We got a lot to talk about today. So y'all can tell by the title, we're diving into 20 teams that are right now going to be looking for playoff spots. We have the top 8 in each conference, and plus the 9 and 10 teams who are going to compete in the play-in with 7 and 8 to eventually try to find a playoff spot. Before we talk about that part of the episode, though, I want to start off just saying how much the injuries are kind of piling up in our league, and how every year, obviously, injuries are part of the game, but it just seems like the more and more time goes on, the more we start to see our stars on the court less and less. Obviously, you know, you have the main injuries. So we've seen over the last few years, Kawhi has missed time, obviously. Paul George, Kyrie. A few years ago, you know, we were seeing less and less of Anthony Davis and Zion Williamson. You know what I'm saying? Kyrie Irving, just the exciting players that make our game go. And the guys that, you know, make me turn on the TV, we're missing some time. Obviously, Lonzo Ball hasn't played in years. That's a guy that I've always enjoyed watching. I know he's not a star or an all-star or anything like that, but he's just a guy that I think people enjoy watching play. That has been a thing. And this year, I wrote down some of the names that aren't playing or has dealt with injuries that I'm a fan of. And, like, I think a lot of these guys have fans in their own right, you know. Ja Morant, one of the most exciting and dynamic guards in our game, explosive. You're talking about putting up numbers. You're talking about highlights, being an engine. He's a guy that when he's healthy, his team is always in the midst of the playoff hunt, and eventually a team that you don't want to see in a 7-game playoff series. He's missed time. He's going to have, or he's going to be gone for the rest of the year, so we won't see him. Plus the suspension that we had coming into the season, we didn't really get to see Ja Morant this year. Then you have Joel Embiid, you know, last year's MVP, a guy that was looking like the front runner before his injury to winning back-to-back MVPs. You lose James Harden, and, you know, they went into the less is more theory. They were playing a lot better basketball with Nick Nurse as the head coach and Tyrese Maxey taking the next step. And a lot of that was Joel Embiid's play, being able to be one of the most elite scoring centers that we've seen in a long time, arguably in history. I don't want to go that far, but you got to put him up there. The passing, the defense. He's one of the few players in the league, when you look at the advanced numbers, he is a 90 plus percentile offensive player and 90 plus percentile defensive guy. He's almost in the 100 percentile in both offense and defense. You know, just to be in the 90 percentile for both categories is very rare. I think there's about 5 or 6 players, and Joel Embiid is at the top of that list. So to lose him, it affects the league in such a big way. Not only is his team missing him, but his team is probably not going to be looked at as serious as they were when and if he's going to return to be healthy. They were a team that potentially could sneak in contention. They were a team that you might see matched up with one of the teams that we look at as a contender, and they may, upset. How is Boston going to guard Joel Embiid? Do you think Al Horford has what it takes to continue to be that guy? You know, what about the Bucks in Philadelphia matching up, the Knicks in Philly? Like, they were just a team that even if they didn't go to the finals, they was going to make the road a lot harder for a Boston, for a Milwaukee, for New York, you know what I mean? Things like that, for Cleveland. So now that they're kind of, you know, in that situation, that affects the league. Bradley Beal has probably had the most unfortunate season so far, being traded to a new team. You're playing in a new situation where you go from being the man in Washington for years, the guy, everything runs through you, from the offense to the last shots, the media, everything is dedicated and catered to you. You right? And usually you go to a team and you playing with another guy. It's like, oh, we teaming up. So now, no, he's going to play with 2 other guys. And now he's kind of, you know, taking a back seat, you know, the double way. So I know for him, he just wanted to be on the court, find his role, find his spot that complements Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. And he talked about that, taking on the challenge defensively and trying to figure out ways where he can be effective because you are playing with a Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. And he's had a hard time just being on the floor. You know what I mean? Now he's dealing with a hamstring injury. I think he had a broken nose. Something before that was going on. I don't know if it was an ankle. Like, he has had the injuries pile up. And it's frustrating for me. And it's not anything that's dedicated to him, but I'm frustrated just as a basketball fan because it's nothing more refreshing than hearing a guy who has led the league in scoring, I believe, has been a 30-point scorer, has been an all-star, going to a new situation with two other guys and being like, hey, this is Devin Booker's team. Kevin Durant is the man. I am trying to figure out how to help. I get who I am. I am very self-aware of who I am and who I'm playing with. I'm just trying to figure out what I can do to make this thing work, whether that's being a defender, whether that's being a spot-up guy playing off of them. That's refreshing to hear. And when you see a guy have that mindset and have that self-realization about himself, I'm rooting for him to be healthy so they can figure it out. And, he just had a hard time staying on the floor. So Bradley Beal is another name. Zach LaVine is an exciting player. Not the most winning player, having a hard time figuring that side of his career out. I think he's unfortunately been with some bad teams, but he's still an exciting guy. He gave us our first 50-point game this year against the Detroit Pistons in the second game of the season for the Bulls. And, he's out for the rest of the year with an ankle injury after being rumored in so many different situations where he could be a Cav, he could be a Laker, a Spur, a Knick, all of these different rumors. He's out. His teammate Patrick Williams, he's not an all-star and exciting player, but I know, Bull fans like him. He's out for the rest of the year. We just found out a couple days ago. Shaedon Sharpe, one of the young players I like, an exciting guy, a guy that I think the dunk contest could have used. He's out with a core muscle surgery situation he just had. Trae Young, we just got like 2 days ago. He's having left-hand surgery. He'll be reevaluated in 4 to 5 weeks. He's an all-star. It's a guy that puts up numbers. It's fun to watch. His team needs him. They're in the midst of a playoff hunt. He's out now. Garland and Evan Mobley, they're back, thankfully. They came back a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago now. Time is going by so fast. But the first half of the season to start, we seen them gone. Arthroscopic knee surgery for Evan Mobley, and Darius Garland was drinking through a tube with a broken jaw. And LaMelo Ball with his ankle injury. I'm looking at that, and I'm kind of getting concerned seeing how his brother's career is going. The fact that they were wearing the triple Bs, if that had anything to do with it, who knows? But they're dealing with lower body injuries, and it continually is being the knee or the ankle for the Ball brothers. And so I'm getting a little bit concerned because LaMelo, to me, is a star. LaMelo Ball is a phenomenal basketball player, and that would be a shame to see him kind of go through the same thing that we're seeing with Lonzo. Lonzo is the most unfortunate story in the NBA when it comes to the injuries because the guy kind of gets forgotten about. It's been that long. It's been years, y'all, plural, years. We've seen guys miss 6 months, 9 months, 7 months. We saw Kevin Durant have an Achilles injury. He's played more than Lonzo Ball over the last few years. So, and then the other night, Tyler Hero. Luckily, it's a very minor injury. With the hyperextended knee, but in a time, you don't know what it is. Jaime Jaquez has missed time. My Knicks, we're missing Julius Randle. We still don't know if he's going to get shoulder surgery. OG Anunoby had the elbow situation. He got surgery. Like, the injuries are really piling up, y'all. They're really piling up. That's a good, 10 names that I just named, and they're all, if not the face, they're, significantly important to their team and the success that their team can have. The Heat need Tyler Hero right now. The Heat need Tyler Hero. The Cavaliers did a good job staying on fire without Garland and Evan Mobley. But when you talk about the playoffs and the second half of the season push to really fight and claw, they need those guys. Shout out to Donovan Mitchell and company for holding it down while they were gone because they did a hell of a job. They were probably the best surprise this year. Seeing them miss 2 starters and still be what they had a stretch where they went 17-1 in 18 games. Phenomenal. But again, in the playoffs, in that real second half push where teams start to tidy it up, they're going to need those guys. They are going to need those guys. Trae Young, the Hawks are trying to fight in. They're in the 10th spot. They need all they can get. That's going to be a situation that's really, really interesting to see. They won last night against the Magic. DeJounte Murray played really well, and I think that's going to be a storyline that you see a lot of people zoom in on, myself included. I'm going to watch how the Hawks are over these next 4 to 5 weeks without Trae Young. If they fall out of the playoffs, then obviously you know what a conversation is going to be. It's been about trying to move on from DeJounte Murray so they can go into this phase where they're building around Trae Young and Jalen Johnson and trying to make that final build around Trae before they wash their hands and say, hey, maybe we should take this in a different direction. But the interesting part of that is if DeJounte plays how he played yesterday and this team wins games and stays afloat, or God forbid, because the Bulls are in front of them, move up in the standings without Trae Young, I think that's a conversation that you'll see happen too. Hey, what if we moved on from Trae Young, who's way more valuable than DeJounte on the open market, and we restructure this team with DeJounte, DeAndre Hunter, we still got Jalen Johnson, Capella, and whatever we can get back for Trae Young. We may still be able to retool and not necessarily rebuild and repivot all around. So that's going to be something that I'm watching extremely close. And yeah, man, I just don't know. The conversation after the Trae Young injury that I was seeing on Twitter was basically asking, why are we consistently seeing guys in our league be hurt? Some people were bringing up the pace, how fast we're playing, the offense, going up, and guys just running up and down, 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 up and down. It's so fast paced. It's so open. Guys are guarding so many different actions at once. I don't know if that is, I'm not saying that that's a bad point. I'm not ruling that out. That's definitely something to consider. But another thing for me is the AAU culture in youth basketball. Our young players, before they enter the league, have so many miles on their young bodies that it affects them when they get to this league. You know what I mean? Like, the NBA is supposed to be the big jump for you for games played. You're supposed to have to get used to playing 82 games. And guys still have to get used to that. But it's so many miles already on the body when these guys are entering college and entering the NBA. They're playing for the high school team. They're playing AAU. They're playing for multiple AAU teams. The AAU circuit is like, I went to one of my brother tournaments before, and I've seen my brother play 3 or 4 games in a day. 3 or 4 games in a day. You'll see AAU games start at 9, and these guys won't leave until 7. And they're playing a game, then they gotta wait 2 hours for the next game, so the body is getting warmed and moved up, and they ready, it's loose, and then you gotta wait another 2 hours for your next game. So then your body gets cold, calm, and more tightened up, and then you gotta get re-loose again. And then you play that game, and now you gotta wait 3 hours for the next game. You know what I'm saying? Like, and your body just keeps getting warm, loose, cold, stiff, warm, loose, cold, stiff, and it's just boom and boom and boom. And it gotta be taxing on the body. It has to be. And then, God forbid, you do become a high-level Division I player, and you're going to a Duke, you're going into a Kentucky, a Kansas, a UCLA, you know what I mean? One of these big conference schools. You're going to the SEC, the ACC, the Pac-12, the Big East. You're going to then go into a program where they're going to have you come in early. You're going to be on weightlifting. You know what I mean? You're going to be practicing. Like, it's extremely taxing. So I think that's one of the things. You look at the list of names, all of these guys that I named that are currently out, they come from the AAU culture. They come from the AAU culture. You know what I mean? Ja Morant, these guys are young guys. These guys come from the circuit of playing a bunch of different basketball to get as many different looks as you can and try to get in front of so many different eyes. You know what I mean? EYBL, Peach Jam, all these different circuits and all of these. And it feels like every year there's a new thing to go play at or play in. I'm seeing guys on the AAU circuit, and I'm going to see them online at the Drew League. And then obviously that's just what we know about. Not to mention, you might get an invitation as a young player to a Chris Brickley run because you tied in with Chris Brickley. So it's like, man, come get some run with some of these pros. You might get an invite to Rico Hines at UCLA where it's like, hey, I'm a young dude. I'm trying to learn. Let me get in there with Pascal. Let me get in there with Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Let me try to learn from some of these guys because they're where I'm trying to be. They are who I'm trying to become. And when you think about how much basketball is being played, it's a lot and it's taxing on the body. A lot of these young guys are playing more than they're training. And that's how I grew up playing. You obviously have your school year, you play in the summer a little bit, but the summer is really to train and fine tune those weaknesses. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to turn those weaknesses into strengths. And then when you're in season, you're still training and practicing, and that's when you're really just you working on your strength. You're staying sharp in your strengths, right? So if I'm a shooter in my season, when I'm not practicing with the team, I'm getting my shots up from 3. I'm working on my one dribble pull up. I'm working on my footwork coming off of the screens this way, going left, going right. You know what I mean? I'm catching, falling out of bounds. I'm taking corner threes. I'm up top. I'm picking and popping. Whatever my role is on my team, I'm taking time outside of my basketball schedule, and I'm working on it in season to stay sharp. When the off season comes, I'm a shooter, and I'm going to work on staying sharp with my shooting, but I'm going to work on my weaknesses too. So now I'm putting the ball on the floor, working on my shot off the dribble, step backs, and you know what I mean? Like transition pull-ups, one dribble pull-ups into the mid-range. When they run me off the line, am I ready to take one dribble, snatch back to the 3? You know what I mean? Like different counters. That's when you do that. So when you talk about training, playing, guys playing on 3 different teams in the summer, 3 games a day, traveling over here, it's just a lot on the body, man. It's just a lot on the body. And when you get to college, it goes up a whole different element, from the conditioning, the training, the film, the practice. You know what I mean? Like college is a whole different thing. Colleges, they can schedule a practice at 2:00 in the morning. You go play for John Calipari, and you have a big game against, let's say, Tennessee. Y'all go out and shit the bed against Tennessee on national TV and piss him off enough. He'll say, when we get off of that plane back home, don't go right to the gym. You don't have that type of shit in high school. Your coach is not going to say that. He'll be pissed. He'll probably give a speech, but then you get to go home, and then the next day you got school, and practice is going to be from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, 3 to 5:30 or 3 to 5, and the last hour is a film session against your opponent in 2 days. John Calipari, Bill Self, you know what I mean? Shaka Smart, they have the control to be able to say, fuck that. Practice is as soon as we get back home. Y'all ass just pissed me off. We going into the gym and we running for an hour at 1:00 in the morning. I don't give a fuck how tired y'all are. That's how college is. So it's a whole different playing field. But I just think that that's something that we have to consider, and something that catches my eye when I talk to people that's in the basketball world, as far as youth basketball. That's just something that's eye-opening. The amount of basketball that young kids are playing before they even get to where they're trying to go to is eye-opening. And when you think about the mileage on these young bodies, it makes sense why, I don't know, the last decade, how many first overall picks have we seen not really play? I remember when the 76ers they drafted Ben Simmons. He was out for the first year. Embiid was out for the first year. Markelle missed his first year. Nerlens Noel was out for the first year. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen a lot of different. Chet was out his first year. A lot of different, because Chet was playing in Seattle at the, I don't know if it was I think it was the crossover, Jamal Crawford's thing. You're just playing so much basketball. But that's my 2 cents on that conversation. It is definitely a lot of disappointing, because we have so much talent that you just love to see, and you don't realize what you have until these players are gone. You know what I mean? It's very easy to forget about or to take for granted a talent like LaMelo Ball when he's healthy. The Hornets suck, you know what I mean? And they've not been that good, partly because of LaMelo's injuries the last few years. But then it's like, when he's not there at all, it's like, it's like, damn. You know what I'm saying? Shaden Sharp, yeah, he's a nice young player, but him not being here at all is like, damn, I kind of miss watching Shaden Sharp. Ja Morant. Joel Embiid was in the MVP running. It's kind of like, what the hell now that we don't have some of these guys. Trae Young, a lot of people talk shit about Trae Young, but over these next 4 to 5 weeks, I bet you're going to miss his game. You know what I mean? Like, you might not be the biggest fan, but these guys missing hurts the league is the point that I'm making. And when, we saw Zion miss time, that was another young player who missed time when he first came into the league. So that's my 2 cents on that topic. Just something to keep an eye on. I would definitely love people in the comments. If you have any opinions, anything that you think could be playing a part, definitely drop it in the comments. I'm definitely interested to hear y'all perspective, whether you played, whether you don't play, whether you have a little brother, cousin, whether you noticing some patterns. Please inform me, because I'm just very curious as to what we can pinpoint that on. You know what I mean? I think I'm looking at the youth basketball movement. I'm looking at how much miles we're putting on these young bodies before they even fully develop. It's definitely interesting. But to switch gears and to go into our main topic of today's podcast, I want to talk about the biggest questions for each playoff team. And I'm calling some of these teams playoff teams because they're going to have a chance to play in the play-in, obviously. So you have the top 8, and then you have the 9 and 10 seed who hopefully can stay solidified where they are. There is becoming a little bit of a gap in each conference. So we'll see because of the way these injuries are if they can maintain. The first thing I want to talk about is the top teams in each conference, right? I usually do things like this, and I start from the bottom and work my way up. But because of some of these teams are so good at the top of the conference, their questions are legitimate. But it's like, I'm really just trying to find. I'm nitpicking. I'm nitpicking to say the least. They are legitimate, but they're not as big of concerns. The Celtics' concerns aren't as big as the Hawks, is basically what I'm trying to say. The Lakers their concern is a lot more major than the OKC Thunder, obviously. But every team does have concerns and weaknesses and things that you have to look at and consider when you talk about the playoffs. Now, for the Boston Celtics, obviously they're as flawless of a team that you can get. That starting 5 unit is incredible. They score, they defend, they shoot threes, they have everything. But the one thing that I noticed when I was taking a look at the Boston Celtics is they don't force turnovers. They're last in opponents' turnovers in the NBA. And for them to be so good defensively, it's kind of a head scratcher. That just means that they're basically defensively sound. They know how to contest shots. They have good rotations, and they have the bodies in there to rebound and close out possessions. But for me, I'm always looking for teams that can force turnovers. I'm a big turnovers guy, no matter if I'm playing 2K. If I was coaching, that's what I'll be trying to do. When you force turnovers, number one, you start to find a way to get easy buckets. The name of the game at every level is to generate as many easy buckets as possible. You want to get as many layups as possible. If you can get 70 layups in the game and you score 140 points that way, I'll take that any day of the week. That's the most efficient shot in the game is a layup. It's the easiest. It will always be the easiest, and it's always going to be the shot that any team that I'm on or I'm coaching or I'm a part of, that's what we're trying to get every single time is a layup, especially when it's based off of turnovers that we're causing. You get in those passing lanes, you get aggressive on those guards, you're poking the ball out, you got active hands, you know what I mean? We're going the other way easy, fast, quick, and now boom. You know what I mean? So not only are we getting easy baskets, we're getting them fast. And we're turning the team over so they can't get into their own rhythm offensively. You're going to win the game that way. If there's a team who can really cause another team to turn the ball over 15 to 20 plus times in a game, give me that team there. Turnovers and points off turnovers, those are two big components for me, especially when it comes to the playoff basketball, because the game, it slows down because it's such a half-court based game. So speeding up your opponent is by default is going to have them playing a little chaotic and sporadic, and that's when the turnovers come, and those turnovers allow different players on those teams to start to see the ball go in very easily, and now you're feeling yourself. You know what I mean? You get a team like Boston where Jaylen Brown can get three breakaways, and now he got 6 quick points off 2 layups and a monster dunk. Now he's in his bag. Now he's going, and now as the game progresses, he's feeling himself. He's feeling good. Now you can get the da-da-da step back, midi, bop. And we know Tatum, Brown, those type of, they love that. They love that. They love those shots. They're going to take those shots, and the easier buckets that can get them going, they're going to start to make those shots. And when they're making those shots, the Boston Celtics are not going to lose games. So I'm looking at the Boston Celtics and asking myself, do they force enough turnovers? Can they force enough turnovers? And can they allow themselves to get easy looks? Because when you're not forcing turnovers, then you, by default, start to see them have to fight and have tough buckets, which has been the history of the Celtics over the last few years when they're running, is we look at them and we say they take a lot of jump shots. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown do a lot of settling, and when you work that hard to get a bucket, it can come and bite you in the end. It really will come and bite you in the end. James Harden at his best was so good because he got to the free throw line a lot and he got layups and threes. But you go back and you look, sometimes James Harden only hit 3 threes. He only hit, a few threes, but he still got almost 30 points because he had 8 to 10 layups. He shot around 11 free throws. That's already like 20 plus points. You know what I mean? You shoot 8 layups, that's 16 points. 11 free throws, that's 27 points. Now you hit 3 threes and shit. You know what I mean? That's 36 points right there. Right there. And that's really off me only making 3 perimeter jump shots. I only made 3 tough shots. So I'm looking at that for the Boston Celtics going into the playoffs. Are they able to force enough turnovers and create easier looks for themselves? Because, the history shows that the half court can get tough when JB and Jason Tatum are taking some of those tough shots. Now, some of the additions that they added can maybe make that narrative change. Having Porzingis space out that floor, open up better driving lanes and things like that, having him as a scoring option. Derek White has been playing phenomenal this year. I talked about Joel Embiid being one of those few players that's in a 90 plus percentile offensively and defensively. Derek White is one of those 6 players as well. Derek White is one of those 6 players. So maybe this year when we get to the playoffs, their half-court offense will look a lot smoother and a lot better because of those additions that they added with Drew and Kristaps. But, historically, they have a hard time because they do a lot of settling. So seeing them force some turnovers and getting as many easy baskets, to me, will be a big plus for them. Didn't mean to spend as much time on that. But moving on. The Timberwolves, we'll go to the Western Conference. To me, it's overall the offense. They're so good defensively. Rudy is doing his thing as a backline defender. He's got them right. Obviously on the perimeter, having Ant, being a two-way guy who's really bought in and taking that challenge of locking up, especially in the key moments of the game, other star players, is super significant. And then you have a guy like Mike Conley, who throughout his career, he's always been a part of really good defensive teams. Grit and grind Grizzlies, the Utah Jazz when he went over there with Donovan, Rudy, and those guys. And then now with the Timberwolves, it makes no mistake that everywhere he goes, the defense is super solid. And then you also have a guy like Jalen McDaniels, another guy who's really, really good on the perimeter. Having him and Ant, be the force on the perimeter, and then having that back line be Rudy, you don't really doubt that defense at all. That defense is going to do what it does, but it's offense. Can they score well enough? You know what I mean? They turn the ball over a lot. They turn the ball over almost 15 times a game. 15 times a game. And I think they're going to need a little bit more flow. I think they're going to turn those turnovers down a lot, especially Anthony Edwards late in the game. He's going to have to make better decisions. Him and Karl Anthony Towns, they have the guys who can score, but it's all about getting those others involved. Even when you look at their bench, they don't really have that spark. They don't have a Jordan Clarkson, a real 6-man who's giving you a punch offensively. Naz Reid is a guy who can do a lot of different things. He can score, he can rebound, he can defend. He can pass for his size and handle the ball a little bit. But he's more of just a versatile offensive weapon in the front court. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been really good for them, and he has certain moments. But again, he's a well-rounded guy who takes pride on the defensive side of the basketball. Same thing with Kyle Anderson. Versatility. They have a lot of versatility and a lot of hard-nosed defensive guys that are coming off that bench. Monte Morris was a trade line addition that maybe can provide that spark, and we'll see in the second half of the season if he can be that for them. But that's about the most offensive punch that they have off that bench is a Monte Morris. Obviously, you would have loved to see them be able to get a guy like Alec Burks. He went back to my Knicks. I liked him for them. But hopefully Monte can fill that void. They need to be better offensively. They have to be. Because they're going to go up against some teams that I think is going to challenge that defense. If they fall in line with OKC, defensively you do a damn good job, but Shea and the Thunder are going to score points. So you got to be able to go out there and score and match up with them on that end of the floor. That'll transition me into OKC Thunder. Speaking of them, my biggest concern and question is, can they control the glass well enough? OKC scores very well. OKC can defend, but it's really about that rebounding. They have a hard time rebounding the basketball, which again is why they were on the market for front court help. You know what I mean? They were looking to add Daniel Gafford. I think we heard about Vucevic and different things like that. They're 29th in offensive rebounding, which you love to have a team that can get you second chance points, but they're also a very efficient half-court team. I think they are first in efficiency in isolation because of Shea. You know what I mean? So they do well there, but they're 27th in overall rebounding. You know what I mean? And they're 29th in opponents' offensive rebounding. So when you look at them getting matched up, potentially right now they're the second seed. They would get matched up against the Kings. Domantas Sabonis could dominate a series with them on the glass, and he can get second, third opportunities for his team. And, you know, when you look at how well the Kings shoot the three ball, that could be a dangerous situation for the Thunder. Domantas Sabonis cleaning up the glass, throwing it back out to Keegan Murray. It's very hard to guard a perimeter after giving up an offensive rebound. Everybody's kind of, you know what I mean, scrambling, looking to match up quickly and get back to the guys and things like that. And the Sacramento Kings have the herders. They have the Keegan Murrays, the Malik Monks. You know, De'Aaron Fox is making shots. So that's something that I'm concerned about with them. On a night-in-night basis, they're getting out-rebound. 45 to 41 on the glass. Doesn't seem like a lot for rebounds, but that's four potential extra possessions that team you're playing against is getting. And we know 4 extra possessions, man, that can turn into 10 plus points quickly. And that's the name of the game right there. 1 to 2 points changes the game. 1 or 2 points can change your game. You allowing your opponent to get 3 to 4 extra possessions, that can swing an entire series. So again, a lot of these top teams, they're so well oiled, they're so good, they have so really good players that the question marks, are they that big? But I do look at the OKC rebound, and that's something that, you know, I want to see them. I want to see them take up a notch. Going back to the Eastern Conference, the Cavaliers. My biggest question for them is it Donovan Mitchell or die? Offensively, and if so, how far can that take you? Because right now we've seen Darius Garland, like I said, miss time, and even in the time back, he hasn't been Darius Garland. You know, Darius Garland is a guy that was an all-star a couple years ago, representing Cleveland. Evan Mobley, I think, has taken major strides in his all-around game, rebounding better. The scoring, you still hope that there can be a leap at some point, but he's giving you 15 and 10. I think Jared Allen's giving you 15 and 10. You like some of the additions that they made in the offseason. George Niang can knock down shots. Max Strus knock down shots. Sam Morrell can knock down shots. Karis LeVert, you know how he is. Depending on the night, Karis LeVert may lead you in scoring, or he may be a negative. But you have a guy that can come off your bench and be that spark on some nights when you need it. That's the cherry on top. Are they depending on Karis LeVert giving them scoring outbursts on a night-in-night basis? Not necessarily. But on those nights where Darius Garland is having a slow night, on those rare, super rare occasions where Donovan Mitchell is having slow nights, to be able to have a guy who potentially can give you 20, 25 plus points off of your bench is a significant boost. But on a consistent basis, I just haven't seen anybody outside of Donovan be real reliable. You know what I mean? It's Donovan, and it's like his playmaking and controlling the overall game and guys being able to knock down shots off of him. But in a series where they're able to key in on you for 7 games, how reliable is that? And Donovan Mitchell is a playoff riser, but he's also a smaller guard, and you're going to have a smaller backcourt. So if you match up again with a team like the Knicks, if at full health, the Knicks have size that they can throw on Donovan Mitchell and potentially slow him down. And do you have anybody outside of him, you know, that can alleviate some of that pressure and command some attention? Because right now, if I'm matching up against the Cavs, I'm saying we're shutting down. Donovan gets our full attention, and we're daring somebody else to beat us. If Karis LeVert can beat us 4 games out of 7, hey, congratulations, Cavaliers. If Darius Garland is going to get hot and beat us, hey, he's a hell of a player. Congratulations, Cavaliers. I don't think their front court players can beat us offensively. Max Strus is good, and he opens up some things for Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland because he is a respectable shooter, something that they didn't have at the 3 the last couple of years with Isaac Okoro and whatnot. But still, I'll let Max Strus beat us. Sam Morrell, I'll let you beat us. Donovan, somebody else is going to have to beat us, and that's really my main question with the Cavs because, again, they've been phenomenal with and without Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. They still stayed afloat and did their thing. Next in the East is the Bucks, the 3rd seed, the Bucks. And it's always going to be the same thing. It's always going to be the defense for the Bucs, y'all. Now, I will say this. Since they brought in Doc, up until now, the defense has improved. You have to give them that. It has improved. The transition defense has improved. Half-court defense has improved. But my question is, has it improved enough for the playoff run that they want to go on? Because it was so bad when Doc came in that it had no other. There's no other way it could have went. It can get no worse. So we knew it was going to go up, but can it go up to the level of contention? Because in order to contend, you're going to have to face a Cavaliers team that's going to be extremely dynamic, and their big punch is going to be at the guard position. And even no matter who you brought through that door to replace Adrian Griffin, defensively, your backcourt was going to be Dame and Malik Beasley. Is the defense at a point where Dame and Malik Beasley is enough when you have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland on the other side? Because we've seen the Cavs run the Bucs out of the gym already. And that's been some of my main thing. Is obviously the point of attack defense. Chris Middleton has been banged up all year. Another guy in and out the lineup. You don't know how much you can count on that. You add Patrick Beverley off the bench. But again, he's off the bench. It's only so much he's going to play. Because you're not going to sit Malik Beasley down because his three-point shooting just goes so well with a guy like Giannis and the attention he receives. Jay Crowder isn't the same defender that, Jay Crowder was known to be. So in a series, who do you throw on? A Donovan Mitchell. Who takes a Donovan Mitchell assignment? That's something I'm curious to see. Obviously, Giannis is an extremely good help side defender, but shit, I'm not concerned about that if I'm Donovan Mitchell. I don't care. I got some guys in front of me that I know I'm about to have my way with. Pick and roll easily. We getting all these type of 3-point looks that we long. And when Donovan Mitchell hit 2 or 3 to start the game, good night. He might be 50. That might be 50 in a playoff game for him. He can give you 50 in a playoff game. And I think that's where the Bucs struggle. They got 2 guards who have a hard time navigating screens. They have a team that has been better, but I think still needs to take strides in transition defense because of the communication. They play a drop coverage with Brook, but I've seen a lot of teams toast that up with the in-between game. And when you're playing against teams in the playoffs, a lot of these teams are going to have dynamic enough guards where they can attack that. Brunson can attack that. Mitchell can attack that. Garland, if he gets hot, can attack that. Maxey can attack that. You know what I mean? So, I'm looking at that defense still, even though they've taken strides, of how reliable can it be. And as long as you have that same personnel, no matter who you bring in as a coach, some of those things are gonna still play a part. So the Bucs are definitely getting better. You have to credit them, but that's still, to me, my biggest question when I talk about the playoffs and them contending. Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, they can win you a game offensively. Both of those guys can go for 75 points, 80 points. They can win you a game, but you're gonna have to get stops. And a lot of times in the playoffs, it's mano against mano. It's only we talked about that with Kendrick Perkins on the numbers on the board. When you get to game 6, game 7 in the playoff series, it's only so many adjustments the coach can make. We made every adjustment we can make. Now it's kind of like our best player has to get his down the stretch, and we have to have somebody who's good enough to stop their best player from getting his. We have to score one more bucket than them, and we go home, or we advance and potentially find ourselves competing for a championship, which is the main goal that we have. So that's my biggest thing with the Bucs. Going back out west, the Clippers, it's always going to be this, man. The health of their 2 guys when it comes playoff time. I give them credit, man. Everybody is, for the most part, has been available throughout the regular season. I think the guy that missed the most time so far is probably Big Zubac. But they're rolling. They're playing phenomenal on both sides of the basketball. Paul George, he missed the last game yesterday. I think they played and lost to the Kings. Kawhi Leonard has missed 5 games. They talked to him about it. He said, hey, I don't have a torn meniscus or knee problem, so I'm good. That's literally it. It's just that simple. If I'm not dealing with a knee injury, I can play. But if I'm dealing with a knee injury, then I'm probably not going to be playing. So it's always going to come back to those guys because we've seen their bodies kind of just give out on them. And as good as they've been doing in the regular season, as healthy as they've been, you still have to think about the history with Kawhi Leonard, with Paul George, hell, even with James Harden. And as long as they can stay healthy, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with come playoff time. Paul George, I think, has been good. People, we talked about our numbers on the board, unappreciated seasons. I said Paul George. KB made an over-exaggerating statement saying, Paul George hasn't been shooting the ball well over a stretch of games. But, hey, even with his bad shooting, Paul George is, again, I'd bring it up, he's one of those players, 90 percentile offensively, 90 percentile defensively. He's had a very phenomenal year. Is it the greatest year we've seen from Paul George? No. Has he had a little slump? Yeah, but even in a slump, with his shooting 42% from the field, about 37% from three, 86% from the free throw line, it happens. Slumping happens. If Steph Curry can go through a slump, if Klay Thompson, the shooters that they are, can go through slumps, trust me, Paul George can go on slumps too. But even in the midst of that, he's giving you a 38-point game, a 33-point game. So I'm definitely still wanting to see Paul George and Kawhi be healthy with James Harden. The next thing we have out west, the Denver Nuggets. And it's a little bit of kind of what I talked about with the Celtics, but it's also a few other things. So, yeah, they don't force turnovers. Just like the Celtics, the Nuggets just don't force turnovers. They have a very hard time forcing turnovers, and they're not as good defensively as the Celtics. Again, the Celtics don't force turnovers, but they close out possessions well, and they're just defensively sound, and they have a legitimate guy in Jrue Holiday. We've seen Jrue Holiday's defense change a series. We've seen what he did in the finals against Devin Booker. You know what I mean? Like Jrue Holiday as real deal and as legit as it gets. Denver, they have some guys that I like defensively. Obviously, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is really good, and then Aaron Gordon is extremely phenomenal defensively, but neither of those guys are Jrue Holiday. Neither of those guys are Jrue Holiday. So I would love to see the Nuggets force some turnovers. I also want to see the Nuggets get to the free throw line more, right? I think outside of Jokic, they're extremely jump shot happy and jump shot heavily. Aaron Gordon is the guy that can get, backdoor looks and get to the paint and score on the side. But he's also a guy that you're not necessarily wanting to see shoot too many free throws. I think MPJ is a very jump shot happy guy. Jamal Murray takes a lot of jump shots. KCP is a jump shot guy. They got to get some free throws. You know what I mean? Especially because you're not forcing turnovers. So where are your easy buckets coming from? You know what I mean? Their easiest buckets are probably just coming from Jokic being able to manipulate defenses and get, backdoor looks for certain guys or whatnot. But I think you still want some easier looks than that. That you have to get to the free throw line. You got to get some stops and force some turnovers to get out in transition. When it comes playoff time, because again, the game is going to slow down. It's going to be more half-court based. Luckily for them, they have one of the greatest half-court options you can ask for in the game today in Nikola Jokic, because he can score, he can rebound, he can get you second chance looks, and when he gets the second chance looks, he knows how to find guys and how to manipulate defenses as a center from the top of the key to elbow in different spots. And that right there is a really, really good thing to fall back on. But even with that, you still want to be able to get easy looks at the free throw line and get out in transition after causing turnovers on the defensive side of the floor. The Phoenix Suns, the 5th seed right now. Really good win against the Lakers a couple days ago. Where is the bench help? What is your bench giving you? The depth. That's their biggest question. Like depth question mark. Bench scoring question mark. Bench question mark. However you want to slice it up. That's my thing with the Suns. They have the second lowest scoring bench in all of the NBA. The only team that's worse scoring off the bench is the Chicago Bulls. You don't want to be in a conversation with the Chicago Bulls Suns because y'all put together a big three that is supposed to do a lot of major things that the Bulls shouldn't even be thinking about. And obviously we talked about Bradley Beal being in and out of the lineup all year. You know what I mean? But yeah, what is the Suns bench going to do for them? How reliable is that bench? You know what I mean? And that the depth is always something that's going to come into play. Even with the Nuggets, I wrote that down in my Nuggets notes. They have a youthful bench. You know what I mean? How reliable is the Nuggets bench going to be? Even with the strong of a five that they have, they are youthful. The Suns, you just don't have much. I'm seeing Ball have some nights and whatnot as of recently. Obviously, Eric Gordon can be an option. Outside of that, and is that really reliable? I mean, you really just have Eric Gordon or Grayson Allen, whoever you decide to not start. You're starting Nurkic, you're starting Durant, you're starting Booker. You know, if you start Grayson and Beal, EG is off your bench. If you start EG and Beal, Grayson is off that bench. I like Grayson starting. The Suns seem to like Grayson starting too. But they need bench help, man. They need bench help. It's like Eric Gordon on that bench or nothing. And I think they may have should have given a call. I would have hit TJ Warren up or something, man. Like, what's going on? Y'all gotta go find. At this point, y'all gotta go sign some people and find some shit and just say, hey, man, try to see what you can give us off of the bench. They should have been a lot more aggressive with finding some scoring. I know they didn't have the best pool of assets to do that. And luckily for them, they do have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. Maybe you stagger those guys, and at least one of those guys are always on the floor. Maybe at least two of those guys are always on the floor. And I'll tell you like this, if Nurkic can have performances like he did against LA, this team is going to be in a lot better shape. But I think they need something from their bench. They really, really, really do. Going back out east, we have my Knicks as the 4th seed behind the Bucks. And it's simple. It's kind of like the Clippers, the health right now. We just can't catch a break with the health for the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson obviously is out. Don't know what that's going to look like. Julius Randle is out. I was hoping he could rest, and it could probably be an injury that can heal on his own with just time off the court and proper rehab. And now they're saying they haven't ruled out surgery. And that's discouraging to hear because you would have hoped that if we were going to do the surgery route, we would have did it immediately. Now we've let time go by. Now we've let the All-Star break go by. And we still don't know what we're doing, and we still don't know if it's going to require surgery. And the longer we wait, the more he could potentially be out, playoffs extended. And Julius Randle, love him or hate him, he's going to be needed for the foreseeable future when we talk about playoffs. We need him for any run that we're going to make. We're going to need Julius Randle. And then again, OG Anunoby. That's 3 starters that's out. 4 full healthy Knicks. We're looking at Brunson, maybe DiVincenzo, OG, Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. And off the bench, you have Hartenstein. You have Josh Hart, Alec Burks, Bojan. And we talking about a team that's sound in the first 5, but then that bench sounds nuclear as well. But missing some of these guys is tough. And, I'm glad we did make some of the moves we made at the trade deadline because you do have some guys you can plug in if things do prolong. But we want to have a full, healthy team. And if not, we at least want to see Julius Randle and OG Anunoby. It's, like I cannot imagine us going into the playoffs and not having one of those guys, if not both. Not having both of those guys is a major, major hit because you want OG to be able to put on, these other teams' top options. So, for the Knicks, it's just basically health, man. Can they get healthy right before the playoffs start and give those players enough time to get their wind back under them and get their rhythm so we can go into the playoffs fully healthy and ready to fight? Julius Randle, he's struggled in the playoffs. And last year you had the ankle situation, so you really don't want to throw him into the midst of that fire without a little bit of time to get a rhythm up under him. So we'll see with that. 76ers, same thing, man. Will Joel Embiid return? And if he does, what percentage is he at? Talked about in the intro. This is one of the most unfortunate parts of the season. A lot of teams now, we're going to bring up some names like, man, can this guy get healthy? And if he does, will he be at enough percentage to really be effective? And that's really the thing with Joel Embiid. This team is living and dying with him as much as you like Tyrese Maxey, as much as you love the addition of Buddy Hield. We like Tobias Harris a lot, but without Joel Embiid, that's just only a solid team. With Joel Embiid, they have a chance to be great. I am under the impression where I don't know if I'm bringing Joel Embiid back if I'm running this team, just because I don't know if it's important enough for him to re-injure himself or to make this something that could come back up. My thing would be to get him at full health, 100,000%, so that we can move on from the injury and not have to think about it again. I would much rather that than to try to force him to play at 40, 50, 60% and have that injury turn into a lingering thing that can have him out even past this playoffs. This playoff isn't important enough to lose Joel Embiid or to have him dealing with his injury next year. You know what I mean? We want to fully get over this injury and not have to think about it and put it completely in our rear view for the future. So that's really my main thing. Joel Embiid on this team, I look at them a lot differently. Joel Embiid without this team, it's hard for me to take them serious in the playoffs. If the playoffs started today, they would play against the Knicks. I'm taking the Knicks in 4 or 5 with no Embiid. That's just me being as honest as I can be. Taking them in 4 and 5. You know what I mean? So I just think that the depth is already in question with the 76ers. Then you lose Joel Embiid, and now you put so much attention and pressure on Tyrese Maxey. And the guys that are to alleviate that, they're solid, but it's not like having Embiid. Embiid just makes everything else flow easily for everybody else because of the doubles, the triples, and the attention he's going to receive defensively from other teams that, Tyrese Maxey can get a lot of open looks. Buddy Hield is going to get a lot of open looks. Tobias, a lot of open looks. So without that, those guys got to work a lot harder for their looks. The Pacers, always been this. Can they get enough stops? They foul too much. They don't rebound. And they don't get to the line. But ultimately, it's going to be about the stops for the Pacers. Everything that they do amazingly offensively, it's the opposite defensively. They score a lot of points. They give up a lot of points. They can shoot and make threes. They allow their opponents to shoot and make threes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a funny thing to see them like that because they're legitimately like elite offensively and hot ass defensively. And it's like at some point, you might want to get a little bit in the middle. Even if that offense got to fall back a little bit for the defense to go up, you might take that sacrifice because that offense won't be shit if you giving all the points right up. It's like a player that scores 35, but then his man has 33. It's like, dog, you gave up everything that you did. You guys are kind of cancel each other out. So they need that. Another thing that I didn't make as the full question for the Pacers, but that I'm looking at, they don't have like as fun as Halliburton is with getting everybody involved, playing fast, being a point guard, being able to knock down shots. They still don't have a guy that can get them one. I know they acquired Pascal, and you hope that he can turn into that, especially in the playoffs. But they're going to need a guy that they say, hey, get us a bucket. They're not a good isolation team, which, again, I don't want to say that it's a bad thing. They play as a team. Tyrese Halliburton keeps that ball movement, keep them going, playing fast. But in the playoffs, it's going to slow down, and you're going to be able to have to just give Pascal the ball and have him be a reliable source of offense when things get a little stagnant, because it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's inevitable. Same thing with Halliburton. You're going to need him to be able to say, watch out. I'm walking my man down with the game on the line, and I'm getting us a bucket. That's just playoff basketball. The Miami Heat, do they have another run, man? Do they have another run? They're right now 7th. Tyler Hero is going to be day-to-day with that knee injury. They're still trying to implement Terry Rozier. And defensively, they do what they do, but they're always going to have a tough time offensively. They're a little slow, old-school, grit and grind type team. You love the resurgence from Duncan Robinson off of their bench, being able to knock down shots, finishing, and being a little bit more dynamic than we've gotten used to seeing him over the years. But do they have another run? They're going to have to play. If the playoffs started today, they would be playing in the play-in. They would play the Orlando Magic, who is a team that could beat them. The Orlando Magic could beat them. And now you see yourselves in a situation where you have to play 2 games again. I think that was the same thing for them last year, where they had to play 2 games in order to get in. And if you lose that game to the Magic, or if you allow the Magic to jump you in the standings, you know what I mean? You put yourself in a position to where you might have to play 2 games. Or just go out and hoop and ball and beat a really good Magic team. Because the Magic ain't backing down. The Magic are tough. They got some guys who can score the basketball. They can defend. They can get stops on you. You know what I mean? So regardless, even if they beat the Magic, you're playing the play-in. You're going to be a lower seed playing against a juggernaut. And you're going to have to fight through that again. You beat the Heat. You beat the Magic, you're going against the Cavs, potentially. You lose to the Magic, you're playing against the Boston Celtics in the first round. And then if you beat one of those teams, you're going to play another juggernaut. You know what I mean? It really won't be a break this year. Unless somehow you were to get matched up with Philly. If they just found a reason to get hot, or if the Cavs, if you look at the Cavs, it's like a breakaway for the Heat. I know they would much rather play the Cavs than the Boston Celtics, but do they have another run? It's extremely hard and extremely taxing to go on those runs because every team you face is one of the top teams. You know what I mean? And last year, the Giannis injury helped them a lot. It's nothing to take away their run. It was one of the greatest runs I've seen, but it's very hard to duplicate, especially when your star player is a guy that's looking to turn a switch on. You know what I mean? He really coasts through the season. The playoffs come, he's just supposed to flip the switch and go into Super Saiyan. It just kind of stacks the deck against you a little bit. So yeah, do the Heat have another run? I love what they do defensively, obviously with Bam, Jimmy, and that whole thing, Caleb Martin, but offensively, can they be good enough, and can they go on a run, and do they have enough? So we'll see that with the Miami Heat. New Orleans Pelicans. My thing is just guarding a three-point shot. The Pelicans are a really steady team, and they're really solid defensively. They're really solid offensively. They're getting shit done. They're winning games. They're 6 right now. They're avoiding the play-in, which I think is really, really good for them. Obviously, it's unfortunate. If the playoffs started today, they would play the Clippers. I think the Clippers would handle them. But if they could move up and play one of these teams, because it's so tight up top. Obviously right now you wouldn't want to play the Nuggets. I don't think the Pelicans want to do that. But maybe the Timberwolves. Maybe you get some shit off against the Timberwolves or the Thunder because they're youthful. Maybe you want that matchup. I don't know. But I think for the Pelicans, avoiding the play-in is a must. Avoiding the play-in is a must. You want some of that time to chill. You want to get solidified, and you want to be able to key in on who you're going to play. And 6 is perfect. 6 is perfect because realistically, the Clippers could jump the Thunder. The Thunder and the Clips could jump the Timberwolves. You know what I mean? Like, you would much rather face a 3 seed than a 2 seed for the Pelicans. But guarding the 3-point line, man, they give up the second most threes. You know what I mean? Like, that's tough. Right now, they guarding it well. I'll give them that. They ain't giving up a bunch of a high 3-point completion or a success rate, but they do give up a lot. And if you play against some of these teams who shoot the 3 ball a lot, they're probably going to catch fire. You just have to be prepared. If you're going to give up those looks, teams are going to play into that, and they're probably going to catch fire. And that's a quick way to get your ass out of a game or out of a series completely. But I like the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans can be an underrated team to watch. I just don't know who I pick them against as a bottom seed. Right? They're going to be a bottom seed because they're not in the top 4. And if you're talking about the Timberwolves, Thunder, and Clippers, Nuggets versus the Pelicans, I'm probably taking the field. Just being honest. I don't know what they're missing, but it seems like the Pelicans are missing something, but they are to be respected and acknowledged by how good of basketball they are playing. So I don't want to take anything away from them there. The Kings, just like the Pelicans, but even worse, they cannot guard the 3. They're 30th in opponent 3-point percentage, which means teams see the Kings and they just lick their chops. Hey, you might hit 10 threes tonight against the Kings. You have to be able to guard the 3-point line. You know what I mean? You're putting yourself in just too deep of a hole by allowing teams to come in and spray the 3. That means that teams could blow you out and punch you out of a game. And also teams are never out of a game because the 3-point shot can get you right back into the game. So whenever the Kings get a 12-point, 13, 14-point lead, they can't really be that secure. Because that fast, a team can rattle off and get hot in the second half and completely change the entire course of the game. Or if the Kings fall behind too early, because they give up threes, an 11-point lead for an opponent could turn quickly into a 19-point lead. So that's something that I want to see the Kings improve on. They need more defense. Outside of Keegan Murray, they don't really have the reliable defenders that you would like to see on the floor for them. And they got to close out possessions. They got to rebound better. You know what I mean? They allow teams to really get second chance points on them. And if you can't guard the 3 already and then you're allowing second chance opportunities, you're just going to get crushed, especially in the playoffs. So I want to see the Kings tidy up on that. The 8th seeded Mavericks, who were on fire. And I'm sorry, what I just said was about the Mavericks. The Mavericks can't close out possessions. They have to close out possessions. I think the Mavericks have the combo swinging chance of Kyrie and Luka. I love the deadline acquisitions that they made with PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. I think it just gives them a different spark. I think they fit better. I think the locker room seems to be better. Grant Williams kind of rubbed people the wrong way there, but they have to start to close out possessions. They have to. Because of who they are defensively, you don't want to give up second chance points, and they give up almost 10 offensive rebounds a game. Double-digit offensive rebounds is insane. You're giving a team 10 extra possessions. So you work super hard, you stop them, and then you just give them another possession. That's just too tough. So I want to see the Mavs close out possessions and be able to get the ball on the other side of the floor. Because then now you're playing the Mavericks way. Now you're playing it to your strengths. Close out a possession, get Luka Doncic that basketball, and let him work his magic with Kyrie, and now you're in a better situation. But if you're already kind of the defensive team that you are, and you're giving away second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8, 9, 10 extra possessions, you're going to lose. You're going to lose, especially when you look at the spot that they're in. They're 8th. They're going to play in the play-in. They potentially play against the Kings. And then if you win that, you play against OKC. You cannot give second chance looks to OKC, especially with that lineup that is the best lineup in the NBA when they go Shea, Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort, J-Dub, and then Chet. Man, Isaiah Joe going to fight that thing up, man. Lakers, are they good enough? Are the Lakers good enough? We're in the bottom half right now of the Western Conference. The Lakers are at 9. Lakers would have to win 2 games, and then they would have to play a juggernaut. Lakers would have to play 2 games in a play-in and then go and play the number 1 seed. Are they good enough to do that? I don't know. I just don't know. Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, they lost Jared Vanderbilt. I really don't know, man. Spencer Dinwiddie, on paper you kind of like, but then you see the actual production. We'll still give him more time. He's still new there. The Lakers are just, Cam Reddish is out. I just don't know if they're good enough, man. When I look at the bottom 4 of the Western Conference and I'm asking myself, who is the odd team out? It looks like the Lakers. And you hate to say that because you never want to bet against LeBron. You never want to bet against LeBron. LeBron is tough to bet against, but golly, man. They can't guard 3. I don't believe in them as a well-rounded team with the talent, especially when you look at everything else that's shaping up. The Kings, talent for talent, offensively, wise, with the firepower that they have. You like the Kings more than you like the Lakers. You like the Mavs, what they have more than you like the Lakers. You like the Golden State Warriors more than you like the Lakers. When the Suns were a part of this group, you kind of like the Suns. I don't know how to feel about the Suns, but damn, the Lakers, they got to show us something. You're really taking the cachet of LeBron and Anthony Davis over anything, because if you're just looking at them from this season, it's like, I'm not in favor of the Lakers. Are they good enough? Are they good enough to be a legitimate playoff team? Not contending team, but playoff team. Are they good enough? Certain stretches, the Lakers will be like, oh, well, watch out for the Lakers, man. At any point, they flip that switch, they can knock out a top-seeded team. But then you watch certain games, you're like, oh, shit, this is that team? Am I sure I was right by that? I don't know if the Lakers are good enough. And just to close out the Western Conference, we'll stay out here out west, and we'll talk about the Warriors. It's the defense. Just like always, the Warriors foul way too much, and they're at the bottom of the league in blocks and steals. I will say they're starting to find a groove. Klay Thompson on the bench. Steve Kerr taking some of those minutes away from Klay and Wiggins, which I think is better. Got those guys about 27, 28 minutes a game. A lot better than just throwing them out there for 34, 35 minutes and saying, hey, they'll figure it out. They'll play out of these slumps. It's like, nah, you got too much talent on the team. Just get AirPods 32 minutes a game until one of those guys figure it out. And if they never figure it out, maybe they'll just be better off the bench. Hey, you got Jonathan Kuminga out there. If Andrew Wiggins is struggling, give Kuminga minutes. Don't just give Wiggins all of the minutes because it's Wiggins. No. You have Steph Curry on this team. You still have a chance. And I like the Warriors over the Lakers because the Warriors are clicking and the Warriors have something that they can rely on. They have the continuity. This is a team that has played together for years. They have a system. They have a direction. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. They know their roles. Very, very good structure for them to have when it comes to the playoffs. The Lakers, because they have these roster turnarounds year in and year out, because they have so many different type of players. One night Austin Reeves is being a guy. One night and D'Angelo Russell gets hot and he's doing shit. You know what I mean? You're probably going to have a night where Spencer Dinwiddie catches fire. Then you got AD and LeBron, obviously. So it's just hard to really project for the Lakers. The Warriors is a little bit more structure, is a little bit more familiarity for me to rely on there. So that's really my top questions for the Western Conference teams. To wrap up out East, we have the Magic. My thing with them is, can they compete at a high level with the lack of three-point shooting? They don't take a lot of threes. They don't make a lot of threes. They don't have the three-point shooting. And because Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner play the type of way that they do, you really need guys that can open up those driving lanes. I think Paolo Banchero is going to take another step in his career when the Magic pair him with reliable three-point shooting. And we're going to see that come back to fire against them in the playoffs. Teams are going to shrink that floor, and they're going to have a lot of different gaps filled with bodies when Paolo catches the ball. And Paolo's going to see a lot of help in the gaps. And if he's play how I've seen him play, he's going to make the right play, and he's going to kick it out to guys, and they're probably going to miss those shots because they don't have a sniper. They didn't go out and get a Buddy Hield. You know, they don't have that dynamic point guard. You know, they don't. I would love for them to get an Anthony Simons or something like that. They don't have that yet. So that's my main concern with the Magic. Can they make enough threes? Are they going to take enough threes? And can they be dynamic enough to have driving lanes for Apollo and Franz? Because when they're able to do that, they can get their own. But both guys are also very smart and willing passers. And yeah, man, that's tough to not have in the playoffs when it gets a little bit more half-courty. The Bulls, do they even want to push for the playoffs? Is this something you want to do, Chicago? Do you want to be a play-in team? Do you really want to set yourself up like that? Because y'all got some guys who can get hot and win you a play-in game. DeMar DeRozan can do that. Kobe White can do that. Vucevic can have a great game, and now y'all in the playoffs for no damn reason. For no damn reason. So do y'all want to fight for this with no Zach, no Lonzo, no Pat Will now? I guess you set yourself up to say yeah because you didn't do shit at the trade deadline. This would be a lot easier of a question if you folded the cards and made the proper moves that we projected y'all or asked y'all to make at the deadline. But this is another year of the Bulls buying into the fact that they have something where the rest of us see nothing. They'll plan to play in. If the play-in started today, I would probably take the Hawks over the Bulls, and it would just be a waste of damn time. And if they did beat the Hawks, they would probably lose the next game. So I really don't know when it comes to Bulls. I'm not sure why they even would do that. I think the rebuild or the retooling has been evident, but they just choose to not to. And the Hawks, they have the worst defense in the NBA. Can you defend at a good enough level to compete? In a play-in, in the playoffs, whatever it is, can you guys defend with some type of pride, some type of effort, and something out there that gives you a chance to win games? Really good offense, especially when Trae Young is out there. We know he's out right now with the hand injury. Are y'all going to be able to stay afloat by getting stops and managing the offense? Again, another situation. If that offense drops for the defense to go up, that's fine. But you can't have a potent offense and you give all of the shit right back up on the defensive side of the basketball. Those are my main and biggest questions for each playoff team. A lot of it is around the defense. A lot of it is around getting stops. Health. Like we talked about in the intro, the health is going to play a big part of the playoffs. It's already played a big part in the regular season, but the more these teams can get healthy at the right time, that's what it's going to look like. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that plays the biggest part in the playoffs. If somebody can get healthy at the right time, there's a run for you. You know what I mean? So, as always, I appreciate y'all. I'm super excited. The second half of the season has officially begun, and we're seeing some really incredible basketball. Victor Wembanyama obviously had the 5x5. I think that the game before that, he had a chance. He was maybe, 1 assist, 2 assists away from a 5x5. That's been extremely exciting to see him continue to grow as a player before our eyes. He's growing. You know, dog years, they age slowly. The dogs age slowly. Vic is aging quickly. He's already, to me, a second-year player. His rookie year was from game 0 to game 41. Now from 41 to 82 is his second year. Next year, when we at the top of the year, he won't be a second-year player. To me, he'll be a third-year guy. His sophomore season is happening right now. And that, to me, has been extremely exciting to watch and to see him continue to grow, to see him continue to redefine himself as one of those top players without needing 5 years of waiting is dope to see. So we got a lot of content coming to the channel, the PB the Plug channel, even outside of the Heliocentric Podcast. So make sure, again, you are subscribed if you enjoy this type of content, because a lot is going to be coming now that we're in that stretch of the season where I think a lot of teams are going to be a lot more competitive and they're going to play a lot more harder to try to etch themselves in the playoff race. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. I will see you guys tomorrow on Numbers on the Board. Make sure you are heading over there and subscribed on YouTube to see that podcast with myself, D Mills, Mike, and King of the Fourth Quarter, a.k.a. Kenny Beecham. And as always, I'll see you guys next week. I'm out. Peace.